The FBI agent sitting across from you isn't here to arrest you. He's here because he already has everything he needs. And you handed it to him, one signed document at a time. You don't know that yet. You think you're helping. That's the part that will haunt you longest. Not the indictment, not the sentence, not the cell. The part where you sat across from a federal agent, answered every question with the calm confidence of an innocent man, and made his case for him. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. At 34, you are by every measurable standard winning. Your consulting firm advises mid-sized companies on financial systems. You bill $400 an hour. You have an apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows in a city that rewards ambition and a life that matches almost exactly the blueprint you drew up at 22. Not luck, architecture. You built this, variable by variable, the way you build any financial model. Identify inputs, control for risk, optimize outputs. You are good with numbers. You have always been good with numbers. It is the most reliable thing about you. Your business partner's name is Alan, 6 years. He runs operations, you run strategy. The division of labor is clean, efficient, logical. You trust him the way you trust a calculator. Completely and without inspecting the circuitry. That is your first mistake, not the last. What you don't know, what you can't know, because you never thought to look, is that Alan has been running a parallel operation inside your firm for nearly 2 years. Client invoices routed through a shell company, billing inflated by 30%. The difference disappearing into accounts you've never seen. $4 million. Your signature on every document that authorized the movement. Alan gets caught because Alan gets greedy. A forensic auditor at one of your largest clients notices the discrepancies and reports them. The FBI opens an investigation, and then 14 months later, 2 agents walk into your office. They are polite, professional. They ask about billing structures and specific transactions. You cooperate fully because you have nothing to hide. You don't know that Alan has already flipped. You don't know that every word you say is being transcribed into a file with your name on it. You think you're helping them find whoever did this. By the time you understand what's happening, the only decision left will define the next 2 decades of your life. Here is what Alan built and how he built it, not because he deserves the explanation, but because understanding the mechanism is the only way to understand how a man who spent his career reading financial systems failed to see the one operating inside his own firm. Alan didn't steal in the way people imagine stealing. There was no single transaction, no dramatic moment of decision. What he built was a system. Patient, incremental, designed to look exactly like normal business activity from every angle you were likely to inspect. The shell company was registered in Delaware. Unremarkable. Thousands of LLCs incorporate there every month. It had a name that sounded like a vendor, a bank account that received wire transfers, and no employees, no office, no actual function beyond receiving money that belonged to your clients. Alan controlled it. You never knew it existed. The overbilling worked in small increments. 3% here, 8% there, occasionally 30, never enough in any single invoice to trigger automatic reviews. Spread across 2 years and dozens of clients, it added up to $4 million. And a paper trail that ran directly through your signature. You signed the payment authorizations, every one of them. Not because you were complicit, because that was the division of labor. Alan handled the operational details. You handled strategy. You trusted the numbers he put in front of you because the numbers had always been reliable. That trust was the architecture of the trap. When the FBI opened their investigation, Alan understood immediately what was coming. He contacted a lawyer within 48 hours of the first auditor's report. By the time federal agents were building their case, Alan had already made his decision: cooperate fully, testify against his partner, and accept a reduced sentence in exchange. He didn't tell you. He kept showing up to your office, shaking your hand, discussing contracts and client relationships and billing structures, while wearing a wire. Every conversation recorded, every word you said about the firm's finances transcribed and filed in a case that named you as the architect. You were helpful, open, detailed. On a transcript stripped of context that sounded like a guilty man explaining his scheme to a partner. The FBI let you keep talking. You kept helping them. For 14 months, you built their case. One cooperative answer at a time. The indictment doesn't arrive like lightning. It arrives like a Thursday. Unremarkable morning, coffee, emails, a calendar with 3 client calls scheduled for the afternoon. Then your phone rings and it's Plea, and the way she says your name tells you everything before she says anything else. conspiracy to commit wire fraud. 14 counts. You sit in her office 2 days later. She's reviewed the discovery. She has the kind of face that delivers bad news without softening it, because softening it would be a disservice to a client who needs to make real decisions with real information. The news is bad. Alan's testimony is the centerpiece. He has told them everything. The shell company, the routing structure, the overbilling methodology. And he has told it in a way that places you at the center of the design. Your signatures are on every authorization. Your emails discuss billing structures in language that, without context, reads like operational coordination of a fraud scheme. Plea explains what juries hear. They hear transcripts. They hear signatures. They hear 14 counts and a cooperating witness who was inside the firm for 6 years. What they don't hear is context. Without context, you are the architect. With context, you are the man who trusted the wrong person for 6 years and signed documents he should have scrutinized. The difference between those two things is the difference between a man who built a fraud and a man who is used to commit one. But in a courtroom, that difference lives entirely in interpretation. And interpretation is fragile. Sentencing guidelines put you at 12 to 15 years if convicted. Plea recommends the plea, 7 years. Out in 5 with good behavior. You do the math because math is what you do. 5 years. You would be 39 when you walked out. No firm, no clients, no career. A felony conviction embedded in every background check, every lease application, every professional introduction for the rest of your life. But here's what the math doesn't capture, what no spreadsheet can model cleanly. Before you even reach a verdict, the machinery has already started moving. Your landlord contacts your attorney about the lease. 3 clients cancel contracts by end of week. The firm's name appears in a news article. By the following Monday, every engagement you have is under review. The system doesn't wait for verdicts. It runs on suspicion. And suspicion, it turns out, is sufficient. Plea gives you a weekend to decide. What you do with that weekend changes everything. Friday night, you don't sleep. Not because you're making a decision, because you're not ready to admit that a decision exists. You sit in the apartment with the lights off and the city visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The windows that used to feel like evidence of arrival, like proof the architecture had worked. Now they just make the room feel exposed, like a display case, like something on the other side of the glass is watching. Saturday, you read prison blogs, forum threads, first-person accounts from white-collar inmates describing the first year of federal incarceration in language that is specific and physiological and impossible to dismiss. The loss of autonomy, the noise that never stops, the way time restructures itself inside a sentence. Not faster, not slower, but heavier. Every hour with a weight you can feel in your chest. You are not reading to prepare yourself. You're reading to confirm what you already feel, that you cannot do this, that the specific dimensions of a federal bunk, 30 inches wide, 75 inches long, represent something your nervous system will not survive. This is not rational. You know it isn't rational. You are a man who has built a career on clear thinking under pressure, and you know with complete clarity that what you are experiencing is panic wearing the costume of logic. Sunday morning, you sit at the kitchen table with a legal pad, 2 columns, plea, run, under plea, 5 years, felony record, career destroyed, start over at 39, every variable accounted for, every outcome predetermined, a closed system, under run, 1 word, unknown. You stare at that word for a long time. Unknown is terrifying. But it is also open. It has room in it that the plea column doesn't. The plea column is a cell you can see clearly before you enter it. The run column is a door you can't see behind. And right now, the inability to see feels safer than the certainty of what you can. You know the math is wrong. The U.S. Marshals recover 90% of federal fugitives. Every lawyer in the country would tell you the same thing. Take the plea. The math is not ambiguous, but here is what the math cannot calculate. The math doesn't account for panic. It doesn't account for the fact that you cannot breathe when you think about a cell door closing. It doesn't account for the variable of a nervous system that has already made its decision and is simply waiting for the conscious mind to catch up. He didn't decide to run, he decided he couldn't breathe. The running was just what came next. Sunday night, you start packing. Before we follow him onto that bus, here is what the US Marshals were already doing. The moment Plea accepted that you might not appear Friday, she began preparing. Within hours of a missed court date, a bench warrant issues automatically. The Marshals don't wait for confirmation. They begin building a fugitive profile the moment the warrant clears. Known associates, family locations, familiar geography, financial patterns. By the time you lock your apartment door Wednesday morning, they are already 3 moves ahead. Now we follow him. You leave on a Wednesday because Wednesdays are invisible. No significance, no pattern. Nobody pays attention to a man with a backpack walking 6 blocks to a bus stop that isn't the one outside his building on a Wednesday morning. That is the point. You have spent the last 3 days thinking like someone who needs to disappear. And disappearing, you have decided, is mostly about removing significance from your movements. The backpack contains $11,400 in cash, withdrawn in increments small enough to avoid automatic flagging over the past 10 days. 3 changes of clothes, a prepaid phone still in the packaging, a toothbrush, everything else stays, the furniture, the photographs, the laptop with 8 years of your professional life on its hard drive. You know the FBI will image that drive within 48 hours of your missed court date. You have left nothing on it that helps them. You have also left everything, because the life stored on that drive is no longer a life you can carry. The bus takes you to a Greyhound station 40 miles south. Cash ticket to Memphis. You have never been to Memphis. You have no associations there, no former colleagues, no college friends, no family connections. The FBI builds fugitive profiles from the inside out, starting with people you know, places you've been, geography that feels familiar. Memphis is none of those things. That is the entire logic. It fits on one index card. You sit in the back row. You don't sleep outside the window. The distance between you and that courtroom accumulates in miles. And with every mile, a new charge accumulates in your federal file. Failure to appear. Fugitive flight across state lines. The original 14 counts of wire fraud now share space with crimes you are committing in real time at highway speed on a Greyhound bus. You calculated this before you packed. You knew the charges would multiply. Calculation and belief are different things. You board the bus at 2:14 p.m. Wednesday. By 9 a.m. Friday, you have not appeared in court. The bench warrant issues within the hour. By Friday afternoon, the U.S. Marshals have your case. By Friday evening, your name is in the National Crime Information Center. Every traffic stop, every routine encounter, every background check in America now returns a single result. You had approximately 52 hours of anonymity from the moment you walked out of your apartment. That window is already closing. Memphis receives you with the indifference of a city that has no idea you exist. That indifference is the first thing that feels like safety. It isn't. The motel clerk doesn't look up when you slide the cash across the counter. That is the first lesson of disappearing. Most people are not watching. The surveillance state you imagined, alert, coordinated, omniscient, exists, but it runs on triggers, on patterns, on the moment you do something that connects you to the network of people and places and transactions that defined who you were. Stay off the network, stay invisible. You check in as James Whitfield, a name you constructed on the bus ride. Common enough to be forgettable, specific enough to feel real when you say it. The room smells like disinfectant and old cigarettes. You sit on the edge of the bed and write your rules on the inside cover of a paperback you bought at the station. No contact with anyone from your previous life. No searches of your own name. No email. No social media. No loyalty cards. No accounts. No digital footprint of any kind. Cash for everything. Every transaction a dead end. You are constructing a person who exists only in physical space. A body moving through the world without leaving electronic fingerprints. It is, you recognize with a specific kind of dark irony, the most sophisticated system you have ever designed, and its entire purpose is to make you cease to exist. Day 4, you find work. A restaurant kitchen needs a dishwasher. $50 a day, cash, no identification required. 12-hour shifts in steam and grease. Your hands crack and bleed through the first 2 weeks. You were billing $400 an hour 6 months ago. You are earning $4.16 now. The math is cruel, but the math keeps you free. 3 months in, you have moved twice. Memphis to Little Rock after 6 weeks. A customer looked at you 3 seconds too long, and 3 seconds was enough. Little Rock to Tulsa 6 weeks after that. Tulsa is large enough to absorb you, cheap enough to sustain you. You find work at a warehouse, loading trucks from 4 in the morning until noon. Your foreman calls you Jim. That is the complete extent of your social identity. Meanwhile, Deputy Marshal Reeves is building something. Not a dragnet, not a manhunt in the dramatic sense. Something slower and more dangerous. A map of everyone you have ever been close to, every habit you have ever formed, every geography that feels like home. Every person who ever knew you has become an antenna. Patient, stationary, waiting for you to transmit. The network doesn't chase you, it simply waits for you to touch it. 7 months without saying your real name out loud. 7 months of being someone who doesn't exist. No history, no context, no past that you're permitted to reference. You have maintained the discipline with a precision that would have impressed the version of you who built financial models for a living. No slippage, no contact, no transmission. The discipline held until the loneliness found the crack in it. Her name is Sandra. She works the evening shift at the convenience store 2 blocks from your apartment. 34 years old, studying nursing part-time, raising a son alone. She starts talking to you because you come in every evening and buy the same 3 things: coffee, bread, peanut butter. And your predictability strikes her as either endearing or suspicious. And she decides correctly that it is endearing. She makes a joke about it. You laugh. The sound surprises you, not because it is unexpected, because you had forgotten what it felt like to produce it. 7 months. You have not laughed in 7 months. That fact lands with a weight you were not prepared for. The friendship builds across weeks. She tells you about her classes, her son's basketball games, a professor who grades unfairly, a neighbor who parks in her spot. Small things, true things. You tell her nothing real, and but you listen completely, with the full attention of a man who has been starving for ordinary human contact. She doesn't need your history. She needs someone who shows up and pays attention. You provide that, carefully, within the rules. The mistake isn't Sandra. The mistake is what Sandra makes you forget. One Tuesday evening, a man walks into the store wearing a U.S. Marshal's jacket. Off duty, buying a soda, not looking for anyone. But the jacket sends voltage through your nervous system. Immediate, total, physical. You leave too fast. Spend the night in the dark with the blinds drawn, listening for sirens that don't come. 2 days later, the loneliness overrides the discipline completely. You call your mother from a payphone at 11 p.m. She picks up on the second ring. She has been waiting. You shouldn't. She has always waited for calls, even before you disappeared. You say her name. She starts crying before you finish the second syllable. You tell her you're okay. She begs you to come home. The call lasts 3 minutes and 17 seconds. It is the best 3 minutes of the past 7 months. It is also the end. The phone at your mother's house has been monitored since week 2. The call is flagged within hours. The payphone is traced to a location, Tulsa. Reeves updates the map. The net begins to close. Reeves has done this before. He knows exactly how it ends. He has worked 61 fugitive cases in 11 years, and they all end the same way. Not in a chase, not in a standoff, but in a quiet moment of ordinary routine interrupted by the inevitable. Someone opening a door they don't know is the last door they'll open as a free person. He is in the command vehicle 4 blocks away at 3 a.m. 2 units at the warehouse, 2 at your building, local detectives on perimeter, everything in position. Everything patient. He checks his phone, waits. Your alarm goes off at 3:30. Cold shower because the heater broke last week and you haven't reported it because reporting things means conversations. And conversations mean questions. Work clothes. Instant coffee, drunk standing at the sink, looking out at the parking lot. Nothing moves at 3:30 in the morning. Nothing ever moves at 3:30 in the morning. You rinse the mug, you open the front door. The flashlight hits you before your eyes adjust. Then a badge. Then the outline of tactical gear filling the stairwell completely. No space on either side. No calculation to run. No variable left to solve for. Federal marshals. Hands where we can see them. Your body decides before your mind does. Hands up. Knees on the floor. The hallway is narrow and cold and smells like carpet cleaner. Handcuffs, the sound of them, then the weight. Someone reads your rights in a flat, practiced voice. The words are familiar from television and completely foreign in person. Reeves appears at the end of the hallway. He looks tired in the way that people look tired when they have been doing something methodical for a very long time and it has finally resolved. He says your real name. Not James, not Jim. Your name, the one nobody has used in 7 months. It sounds like a word from a language you used to speak fluently. Recognizable but distant. Like something that belongs to someone else now. They walk you out into the cold Tulsa morning. You watch the streets pass through the window of the federal vehicle. The warehouse, the convenience store where Sandra works, the payphone that ended everything, 7 months of running, ended in a hallway that smelled like carpet cleaner. The courtroom is fluorescent and quiet. The charges have multiplied in the way that charges multiply when you run. Not dramatically, but arithmetically. The original 14 counts of wire fraud remain. Added now. Failure to appear, fugitive flight to avoid prosecution, use of fraudulent identification. Each count a direct consequence of the decision made at a kitchen table on a Sunday night with a legal pad and a word that said unknown. The plea deal is gone. The government does not negotiate with people who run. That option closed the moment you dropped your apartment key through the mail slot. Your new lawyer is a public defender named Walsh. He handles 60 cases. He does his best with each one. He argues mitigation, first-time offender, non-violent, a man who panicked rather than a man who planned. The argument is accurate. It is not sufficient. The prosecutor is more precise. She puts a number on your freedom, $340,000. The cost to taxpayers of 7 months of federal manhunt. Reeves, his team, the canvassing, the behavioral profiling, the interstate coordination. She places that invoice in front of the jury and lets it sit. She has turned your 52 hours of panic into a line item. The sentence is 19 years. You do the math instantly because math is what you do. 53 when you walk out. Your mother will be 80 if she is still alive. The career is not paused. It is archaeological. The industry will have restructured around technologies that don't exist yet. The skills that made you valuable will be historical artifacts. The federal facility in Kentucky holds 1,400 inmates. Medium security. Your cell is 7 feet by 11 feet. Concrete walls painted beige at some point in the distant past. Metal bunk, metal desk, metal toilet. The dimensions are the first thing you memorize. Not deliberately, but because dimensions are what remain when everything else is removed. Your cellmate is from Indiana, 12 years for bank fraud. He has been inside for 3 and has achieved the specific stillness of someone who has made peace with the geometry of his world. He tells you the first year is a clock that doesn't move. He tells you that after that, time changes. Not faster, just less sharp. The edges of days blur until weeks become indistinguishable. He is right about everything. In month 4, Sandra sends a letter. She figured out who you were when the arrest ran in the news. She is not angry. She says her son asked about you, the quiet guy from the store who always bought peanut butter. In year 1, your mother makes the 9-hour bus ride to visit. She looks smaller than you remember. She holds your hand across the visiting room table and talks about her garden, tomatoes that came in late, a neighbor's dog that keeps digging under the fence. She doesn't mention Alan. She doesn't mention the sentence. She just holds your hand and talks about tomatoes. For 45 minutes, you are someone's son instead of a case number. You walk out on a Thursday morning in October, year 14. Parole granted on the basis of exemplary institutional record and low recidivism risk. The conditions are precise. GPS monitoring, regular check-ins, employment restrictions, geographic limitations. The architecture of supervised freedom. Not quite a cell, not quite the other thing either. Your mother isn't there. She died in year 11, cancer that moved fast. You found out from Walsh in a phone call that lasted 90 seconds. There was no funeral you could attend, no grave you could stand beside. Just a 90-second phone call and then the return to a 7 by 11 room where the news had nowhere to go. Your sister picks you up. She drives a car you've never seen. Her hair has gone gray at the temples. She hugs you in the parking lot for a long time without speaking. There is nothing to say that the hug doesn't already contain. The world has reorganized itself around assumptions you don't share. The phone does everything now. Payment systems have changed. The professional landscape you navigated with authority for a decade has restructured completely around you while you were stationary. You apply for jobs that require background checks you cannot pass. You sit in a parole officer's waiting room next to people whose crimes look different from yours, but whose exhaustion looks identical. You find work eventually. A small accounting firm run by a woman who believes that what a person did at their worst moment is not the complete definition of what they are. Bookkeeping. tax preparation, tasks you could have done in your sleep 15 years ago. Now they fill your days with a purpose you did not expect to find. The ankle monitor comes off after 18 months of clean compliance. You walk out of the parole office and stand on the sidewalk and feel the absence on your ankle like a phantom limb in reverse. Something that was there and now isn't. And the space it occupied doesn't know what to do with itself. You are 55, gray hair, reading glasses, small apartment, bookkeeper's salary, no wife, no children, no legacy beyond a case number in a federal database. Some nights you run the calculation again. 19 years served, 7 if you had taken the plea, 5 if you had walked out clean. 12 years of your life, your mother's last 11 years, your sister's gray temples, Sandra's letter, the tomatoes that came in late, purchased with 52 hours of panic and one phone call you knew you shouldn't make. The numbers are clean and merciless. Right now, somewhere in this country, someone is on a bus to a city where nobody knows them. They have cash in a backpack and rules written on the inside cover of a paperback, and the specific conviction of a person who believes that distance equals safety. They will not read this, and if they did, they wouldn't believe it applies to them. That's the final variable, the one that never changes. Everyone thinks they'll be the exception. The math has never produced one.